Right. So in the last class, we have discussed system programs and application programs and their role. Even some examples of system calls are also we have discussed in the last class. Okay. Now, let us continue the virtual machines, whatever we have started discussing in the last class. Okay. So virtual machines is a software program which is used to exhibits the physical behavior of the system when it was not present. That means, for example, you can talk about your Gmail. Physically, your contents or the whole information related to your account is placed in the Gmail server, not in your system where you have logged into that. Okay. Whenever if you submit your credentials, your mail will be opened and you can perform all the operations as the way you just assume that it is present in your system. You work like that, right? But physically, and even the system is also will respond in the same way. Whatever the request that you made, immediately you get the response, provided you have proper internet connectivity, right? So, in such a way, without having the physical presence of the system, logically you are getting the behavior of a particular system is called as virtual machine. So you can do or you can implement this kind of mechanisms with the help of the softwares. Okay, that is about a virtual machine. Usually, virtual machines are implemented using software emulators. Okay, so based on the user level correspondence to any physical computer, and virtual machines can be divided into two categories. One is system virtual machine and process virtual machine. System, that means you have a single system, okay, whose resources can be shared by n number of systems without compromising the performance. And that means each and every one will utilize the resource as their own copy rather than shared copy. Right? For example, you all people are connected to a particular server where the C compiler is running, where the Turbo C is available. Right? So you just connect SSH space some IP address 192.168.1.7. So you all are connected to the same server. And what is your feeling? You thought that the server processes your request only. That means whatever you typed on it, whatever the program you are going to execute, okay, you assume that the server will process your program only. Similarly, the others are all other your classmates are felt like that. Hope you are all clear with this point or not. Concurrent access. Right? So in such a way, you can use the copy of the operating system as your own copy, and you can utilize. Such kind of systems are called as system virtual machines. A system platform that supports the sharing of the host computers physical resources between multiple virtual machines, each running with its own copy of operating system. So this kind of virtualization is provided by software layer known as hypervisor. So these all things are possible with the help of the software. Okay, so which can run either on bare hardware or on top of the operating system. So either it can be run on the individual components of the operating system or hardware or the operating system. Okay, and another kind of a virtual machine is process virtual machine. Okay, so here in the previous case, we'll try to share the resources of the system itself. And now we'll try to share the process execution. That means platform independent programming environment. For example, if you develop a C program in Windows 9 platform, assume that, or Windows 10, you have developed a program, C program, which was successfully executed on Windows 10 environment. Okay, the same copy you try to execute it in Windows 2005 or some other version of the operating system. Okay, you may get some errors. You might have heard, sir, both of them are Windows operating systems. Why can't I execute it in Windows 2005? Means it is not platform independent. It is platform dependent. But that means whatever the program that you have executed in Windows 10 is only suitable in executing Windows 10 and all. So whenever if you want to execute that particular program in some other system, the some other system should have Windows 10 operating system only. Then only it can be executed. Other than that, if it is having or Linux or some other version of operating system, maybe it is the higher than that, probably you may get executed. Suppose if you have a Windows 11 or 12 or something like that, the higher versions, probably it may be executed, but when you're talking about the lower versions, it may not. Right? So that is what we can call it as a platform dependency. Instead of writing platform dependent or using platform programming, because here the problem is you may not find the same kind of platforms in all the places wherever you go. So what you have to do, if it is not present in your destination place, you are supposed to purchase it. For example, in your destination, assume that in your destination place where you want to execute the C code, which was already successfully executed in Windows 10, in the destination place, assume that you have 2005 version. Okay, so when you try to execute the code, you may not get the output. So what you have to do, either you need to purchase Windows 2010, or you may develop the code which can run on 2005 version. So both the options are typical for us. Purchasing the new software, new version of the operating system may become the costliest affair. At the same time, redevelop the code which can be fit for the 2005 version of the Windows. It is also cost-effective process. And another important point is you may not ensure that in future it won't be changed. That means in future probably the requirements may be changed, because day to day the technology has changed drastically. Because of these reasons, probably the requirements may be changed. In that case, again we need to change again and again. So you just imagine how difficult it is and how much of cost is incurred in it. So these all things plays an important role. So that is the reason people are thinking. So here, what is the root problem for all, which causes all these things is platform dependency. So in order to, if we are able to avoid the platform dependency, so that it minimizes, we cannot say that it avoids, it minimizes the at least 80% of the problems. So as a thought, as an output of this particular thought is development of platform independent programming languages like Java, where you can develop the Java program in any operating system. Same, let us consider the same example. You have developed the Java program in Windows 10 operating system, and you could try to execute the same in Windows 2005. Yes, you are able to execute it, because if you have A JVM, a 2005 version of the Windows, yes, you are able to execute it. Because initially it was compiled and interpreted, and then it will be converted into the bytecode, that is system understandable format. So with the help of JVM, we are able to convert it into the bytecode. So the same bytecode you can also do at the destination place where if the JVM is available, so that it can be converted into the bytecode and it could be executed irrespective of the operating system. Right? So in such a way, so this kind of environment, platform independent programming environment masks the information of the underlying hardware or the operating system and allow programs execution to take place in the same way on any given platform. So internal burden or internal difficulties, whatever we have discussed previously, those all things will be put into the dustbin, and we are able to execute our program in any of the environment, provided it should have some predefined mechanism. Like in both the places, if you have JVM, then only you are able to execute it, right? So that is the requirement here itself. Now, let us look at about some of the advantages of the virtual machines. Is it allows multiple operating system environments on a single physical computer without any intervention. That means, let us assume that physically the Windows is installed in your system, and with the help of virtual machines, you can provide the flexibility to the users. They can run their code in Linux environment with the help of VMwares. With the help of virtual machine, you can provide the facility to the user. He may run his application on different operating system, which was not physically installed in your system. Okay, and virtual machines are widely available and are easy to manage and maintain. Of course, wherever you have technological advancements, there also you are supposed to find out some of the drawbacks also. But as of now, virtual machines are widely available. Majority of the places people are using the virtual machines, and they may feel it may be easier than maintaining the physical systems. And it offers application provisioning and disaster risk recovery options. So whenever the system gets failed, uh, you can recover the data without any loss. So then coming to the drawbacks of the virtual machines are they're not such efficient as a physical computer because the hardware resources are distributed in an indirect way. So now here all of you should observe carefully is, as I told you, operating system is a resource manager. It acts as a controlling system. It acts as a resource manager, right? In all the cases, what we have observed is whatever the name that you call operating system, but internally what we have observed is in order to execute any of our user program, we need to interact with the hardware components. That is not possible. That is not possible with the users because they don't have direct connectivity to the users. I mean, user and the hardware systems. So that is the reason user has to connect to the hardware components in some other way. So what is that way? By using system calls. By using system calls, we can convey our request to the hardware components. Okay, and then we'll get the services of hardware components. So in such a way, the process will be going. Now to the virtual machines, as you can observe the first advantage, allows multiple operating system environments on a single physical computer without any intervention. So up to this point, this is fine. That means in the single operating system, I mean, in a particular system, where a Windows operating system is installed. With the help of virtual machines, you are able to run Linux on the same machine. Without installing Linux on that particular machine, you can run it. Okay. Now, suppose I want to use or I want to utilize the services of Linux, which was not physically installed in my system. Okay, I want to execute a C program in the Linux environment. For that also, I need the services of the hardware components of which one? Again, the system where I am working. I have to utilize the services of the hardware components on which I am working. So, whatever the VM virtual machine software that you have developed, that should take care of passing or processing your user application in the virtual environment where there is no direct connectivity between your virtual environment and the physical hardware components. So there also it need to provide some mechanism. That means your requests should be converted into the system calls, and they will be communicated in turn. Next, they will be communicated to the operating system, and they can convince the operating system to process it. So it should follow in a different direction rather than a direct connectivity. Hope you are all clear with this point at this moment or not. And multiple VMs running on a single physical machine can deliver unstable performance. Unstable performance. There is a performance issue when you are running multiple VMs on the single machine. Okay, you can observe this diagram. Here, VM1 stands for virtual machine 1. This is a single system model where you will have processors, kernel, and hardware. So you can execute all these things. Instead of that, if you have multiple VMwares, okay, this VMware is requesting something that could be communicated to the software which you have developed. Similarly, another VM, for example, this is the Windows operating system which I am working on, which I want to execute Linux environment. I want to create Linux environment, Solaris environment, and some other Unix environment, for example. These are the three. Okay. So in this case, all these three should be communicated with the virtual machine implementation. Right? We don't develop separate software for VM1 and VM2 and VM3. We have developed a single software. With the help of this particular software, we can create different environments. So all these while communicating, because here you can observe at the bottom of this one, we have hardware. So the VM1 request should be transferred to the hardware with the help of this particular one. Similarly, VM2 also, VM3 like that. So while processing these three requests, you may not get the response as the same. There might be definitely there might be a difference in the performance when you are having multiple VMs like this, right? If you have only single VM, you may not observe the difference. But when you are dealing with multiple VMs, there is a performance. So whenever you are not bothered about the performance, you want to execute this number of tasks in different environments, then you can go with the VMwares. For example, being a student, you are not able to purchase the license of a particular operating system, even say, for example, Windows operating system also. And then what we have to do, if you are all looking for the open free environments where you can run or where you can practice or where you can execute your programs in different platforms. So for people like you, these kind of VMwares will help definitely a lot. Hope you're all clear with this point or not. Still, if you have any queries, please drop a message. Make it fast, so that I will continue the next one. All of you clear? If any one of you are having any query, you please drop it in the chat box. Okay. Okay. See, virtual means logically it is present, not physically. Logically, just like your dream. When you're sleeping, what are the dreams that are coming? So they are logically present. Okay. Similarly, here also the virtual machines means there is no physical existence for it. Only just like whatever the softwares that are running in your laptop, like Windows, Word document or Excel document or some other softwares or Zoom software, like it is also a software. What it does is it creates an environment where the user may feel like he can do the operations on the desired system. For example, in my system, a Windows operating system is running. Okay, I have developed the program, C program in Windows environment. I was executed it and I got the correct output. Now I want to execute the same program, or I want to test the program in Linux environment. For that, what I have to do? I need to install the Linux software in my system, Linux operating system in my system, and then after successfully installing it, I can then execute the program in the Linux environment. Okay, I was executed in the Linux environment also. After that, if I want to test it on some other, a Solaris operating system, what I have to do again? Again, I need to install that particular operating system into my system. Like that, how many number? So each and every time, sometimes they may be free of cost, sometimes they may be chargeable, right? So whatever it may be, whether it is free or costly, licensed one, you need to install all those things and execute. But forever you are doing like that? No. For this moment, I am interested in executing this particular one in Linux environment. But not all the cases I'll do the same. Probably for the next program, I may want to execute it in some other environment. So like that, our requirement may be changed. So in that scenario, installing all those softwares in your system is a foolish task. So that is the reason people have developed a mechanism, a software which will facilitate you to exhibit the behavior of a separate computer, and it also be capable of performing the tasks such as running your applications programs like a separate computer. You are working in the same computer, but your VMware or your virtual machine make you feel like you are executing your program in a different system. That is what exactly the virtual machine. Okay, so by using this, we can run different programs in different environments. You can check it out and you can test it. That is the advantage of virtual machines. So here we'll have two types of virtual machines: system virtual machine and process virtual machine. System virtual machine means you can share the resources of your physical system by more than one virtual machine. Just like the way which you are accessing the C compiler in your laboratories. Because the C software is available in the Linux server, which is available in our central library. So you all people need to connect to that server and you can get access of that particular one. Even the contents, even whatever the programs that you have created, that was stored in the server itself only, rather than the system where you have worked. Hope you are all clear with this point or not? మీరు ఏదైతే ల్యాప్టాప్ కంప్యూటర్లో మీరు పని చేస్తున్నారో ఆ సిస్టంలో స్టోర్ అయినాయా మీ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ అన్ని ఎప్పుడైనా చెక్ చేసుకున్నారా? సి ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ అన్ని ఎక్కడ స్టోర్ అయినాయి? మీరు ఏదైతే సర్వర్కి కనెక్ట్ అయ్యారో SSH 192.168.1. ఏదైతే IP అడ్రస్ ఇచ్చి కనెక్ట్ అయ్యారో ఆ సిస్టంలో మాత్రమే మీరు రాసినటువంటి ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ అన్ని స్టోర్ అయ్యి ఉన్నాయి. మీరు ఎక్కడైతే సిస్టంలో కనెక్ట్ అయ్యారో ఆ సిస్టంలో స్టోర్ అవ్వాలి అన్న కదా. అంటే ఏంటి అర్థం? అక్కడ మీరు ఆ ఏదైతే సర్వర్ ఉందో దాని తాలూకా మెమరీని మీరు ఇక్కడ షేర్ చేసుకుంటున్నారు. ఫిజికల్గా మీకు ఏమనిపిస్తుంది మీరు ఇక్కడ పనిచేస్తున్నప్పుడు? ఎస్, నేను నా సిస్టంలోనే పనిచేస్తున్నాను, నా సిస్టంలోనే C కంపైలర్ ఉంది, నేను ప్రోగ్రామ్ సబ్మిట్ చేయగానే కంపైలర్ దాన్ని ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తుంది. లైక్ దట్ యూ మే ఫెల్ట్. బట్ వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్ ఇంటర్నల్లీ? The whole process, the execution of your job is going to be done at server itself only. So that is what we are calling as system virtual machines. Whereas coming to the process virtual machines, platform independent programming environment. As I told you previously, people have developed the technology which is platform dependent. That means wherever you have developed your application, you are able to run your application in the same kind of environment which exists on the other place. That means whatever the versions of softwares that you have used while developing the application, in the destination place also you should have the same kind of or the same versions of the softwares. Then only your application will run. Okay, so it leads to the different kinds of problems. So that is the reason people have thinking in the different direction. Instead of doing like that, if we develop a platform independent programming languages so that they can execute on any operating system. For better understanding, I'm telling only the same versions of the same operating system, two different versions of the same operating system. But here the assumption is it could run on either in Windows operating system or Linux operating system or some other operating. That is the meaning of a platform independence here itself. Okay, the program which was developed in a Windows environment, probably it could run on Linux environment also. Correct? So that is about virtual machine. Now, is it clear? Somebody has some lagging while understanding this. Now, is it clear? Okay, thank you. Now, let us look at about a different computing environments so that you will be clear. Whatever the tasks that you have learned so far will get cleared once you understood all these things, right? Now, computing environments. What are the different kinds of environments where we have executed right? So what usually happened in the initial days as a traditional computing, there just like the office, you can imagine about our lab. What happens in our lab? We'll have number of systems in our laboratory. Students will come and they can practice their applications. All the systems which are available in the laboratory are connected with a network, right? And probably all these systems may be connected to the server. This is just the environment that exists previously or in the olden days. But later on, utilization of or implementation of web technologies will change the entire scenario drastically. That means you might have heard about the networks: local area network, wide area, metropolitan area network, MAN, and wide area network, WAN. These are the three different kinds of networks. Local area network means maybe within the building or maybe a certain radius, we may connect all the systems through network is called as local area network. That means the network which we can establish in the range or within a building. All right, such kind of network is called as local area network. And next, metropolitan area network. You can connect uh, the systems within a city. Say, for example, in our Eluru, whatever the number of systems which are present in Eluru, if all of them are connected as the way the systems which are connected in your laboratory, right? So such kind of network is called as metropolitan area network. If you are talking about more than that, that means you may connect the whole systems which are present in your country is called as wide area network, where there is no limitation. You can connect in any length. But again, there are different kind of requirements you are supposed to be think how the signal is going to be transmitted from here to the faraway distances. Again, in the computer network subject, you might have studied about all these things. Okay, but until then, you just here the requirement is we need to understand what is happening in the world and days, how the people are using the computer system to share their information one among others, right? So later on, once the web technologies have implemented, the entire scenario is going to be changed, right? There is no limitation for the construction of the network. You can transfer the data from any place to any place on the universe, provided if you have internet connectivity. All right? Hope you're all clear or not. So that is the traditional computing. Now we'll see the different categories of the computing environments based on their behaviors. So in that, the first one is mobile computing. You are all familiar with, you have a very good experience in using mobiles, right? But now how they were developed, that is the mobile computing. So it can handle a device. I mean, mobile computing means simply a small device such as your smartphone or tablet, opposed to the laptops or personal computers or some other gadgets, right? So what is the use of it? It consists of a set of sensors, GPS, tilt, compass, and interior movement. So whatever the hardware components that are required for the proper functioning of your mobile, okay, in a smallest way, you can carry it. Okay, will it possible to carry your entire personal computer? It is difficult for us. But whereas in your mobile, yes, you are able to transfer. With your mobile, you are able to develop the new Word document and you can share among your friends, right? And you can transfer your mail, you can open your social media where you can place, you can upload the videos. These all things can be done with the help of your mobile itself only, right? You're all doing it, right? And typically, if you are, for all these things, what we require, we need to have proper internet connectivity. Okay, wireless networking, that is IEEE 802.11 or cellular technology. By using this, we can connect to the internet. The problem with this is the storage limitations. Of course, nowadays you are all using advanced mobiles, but only the secondary storage capacity is up to now we are using maximum of 128. Of course, 256 are also be available. 64 maximum people are using. Then people, those who have higher requirements, probably they may go for 128. Okay, just a minute. Sorry for the disturbance. Okay. And here the memory limitations, memory is less in capacity when you are compared with the laptops and your personal computers. Okay. And as you all aware of that, in the current scenario, the two popular operating systems are used in the mobiles are Android OS, and for Apple iPhones, we're using iOS, right? These are the two different operating systems. So there, I mean, whatever the operations that you are performed using your mobiles are little bit different when you're talking about this, or when you're doing the same in personal computers and as well as laptops, right? And another kind of environment is distributed systems. This is, of course, it was invented long ago, but the usage of this particular operating system gets increased, especially in the current days with the help of big data analytics. So here the motto is we'll try to connect the heterogeneous systems together as a single one, and thereby will distribute the tasks among the heterogeneous configured systems, and we'll try to uh, maximize the throughput. We'll try to maximize the throughput. Throughput means the number of tasks to be executed with the stipulated time. Okay, so that is the mode of inventing the distributed systems. Previously, we have what we have discussed, client server environment. There, a single centralized system will serve all the requests posed by the clients. So in that case, what happens if the number of customers, I mean, number of clients are gets increased? Again, it will become a difficult task for the server, even though you have implemented in an optimized manner, but definitely it becomes a overhead on the server itself. So instead of being like that, if we are able to implement a mechanism where instead of a single center place internally, it was divided into two. That means internally your server may be connected to some other system, right? So that means all the mails are processed by one server. For example, you can think about Gmail server, okay, where we'll have centralized server. All of us are need to connect to that particular server in order to access our Gmail. That is the concept. Now, in the olden days, at the time of inventing the Gmail, only one or two people or 1,000 people are present, are having the mail accounts. But nowadays, you can imagine how many number of accounts are there in the universe, Gmail accounts, right? Let us assume that all the users of the Gmail are trying to access their mails at the same time. Let us imagine, or at least 50% of the users are trying to access the Gmail at this particular moment. You just imagine how much of overhead that exists on the Gmail server. It is also a single system. How it is able to handle all these billions of requests at the same time? So that is the reason what people have thought, that is instead of putting load on a single system, will divide the responsibilities into some other systems. Say, for example, all Indian accounts will be processed within India itself only. That means they will appoint or they will place a system which will take care of processing all the user requests in the India itself. Similarly, Japan, Germany, like they will appoint a persons in each and every country. Okay. First of all the requests are coming to the main server. Main server, in turn, it will be redirected to the concerned server who is going to process the particular request. Okay. So automatically the task is distributed. Similarly, all other tasks also. What happens in that case? The central server is only will take care of distributing the tasks to the all other servers which are located at different places. Okay. Thereby, what happens in that case if we do like that? We'll try to, we can we are able to execute all the tasks, even though it is huge in size, we are able to process within the stipulated time without any overhead. So that is what we are calling it as distributed environment. The same kind of functionality is also be used in nowadays while handling the big data. There also we will use the distributed environment for processing the huge volume of data, right? Of course, we'll see in future about big data analytics. Now, as I told you previously, we'll have three different types of networks: wide area network, metropolitan area network, local area network. Local area network means which is a stipulated, I mean, specific region. For example, yeah, all the systems which are connected in our college itself, right? When you're talking about metropolitan area, you can imagine all the systems which are present in Eluru are connected with the network. We're coming to the wide area, it is international. You can connect any system from anywhere to anywhere in the universe, right? Now, PAN, personal area network, personal area network. That means you can share the information while switch on your Bluetooth from one system to another system. Am I right or wrong? You can share your files via Bluetooth. So such kind of connectivity is called as PAN. Okay. So here the network access speeds, throughputs, or reliabilities are the important issues in the distributed environment, right? So these things you are supposed to be addressed when you have developed this kind of mechanism. Okay, and operating system view of the network may range from just a special form of file access to complex, well-coordinated network operating systems. Of course, this all information is just considered as a just like a log file where it records all this information, right? And it shares the resources like files, CPU, RAMs, printers, and others. Because distributed environments means whatever the things that are connected to that will be assigned with tasks by distributing something. Suppose if the server has 10 requests, among 10, one request is related to printer. What the server will do? Just simply it will be distributed to the printer itself, so that the task will be executed parallelly. Okay, among these, one of the tasks requires the utilization of the CPU. Immediately it will be allocated. Some of them requires the services of file manager. Yes, like that we'll distribute it to the different resources. I mean different places, so that will maximize the execution time. Right? That is about distributed environment. And coming to the client server computing, as we have discussed in the last class, a single centralized place where the number of systems are connected with the different versions: desktop, laptop, and smartphone. By using these three, you are able to connect to the Gmail. By using these three, you may connect to the some other kind of server, bank servers. For example, you want to access internet banking. That is possible with by using these three kinds of environments, provided if you have network, right? So single system can process all these jobs, all the requests made by the clients. So the advantage here itself is we need not maintain the resources in all the cases. We'll maintain the resources at single place, and those resources will be shared among the n number of clients. So in such a way, it reduces the cost, right? But whenever if the number of requests gets high, it becomes a overhead on this server. So it depends upon the configuration of the server which you are maintaining and the network bandwidth. Okay. Similarly, peer-to-peer communication, one-to-one communication. This was also which I was discussed in the last class. Peer-to-peer communication. Here, every system will maintain his own resources, whatever is available. Okay. If this particular system wants the services of some other system, or it wants the some other resources which are available at some other system, what it has to do? It made a request to this particular system. In that case, it will act as a client, and this particular system will act as a server, because it is going to serve. So what we understood from this one is whatever the system which provides the services will act as a server, and whatever the system which made a request, which makes a request for getting the services of the server will be called as client. So at any given point of time, any system may act as a client or any system may act as a server in the peer-to-peer network. But whereas here in the client server environment, always the server system will act as a server, whereas all the other these are acts as a clients only. Hope you are all clear with this point at this moment. And even virtualization, just now we have discussed virtual machines, right? This is about virtual machines. And another important, most prompting area is cloud computing. This is very interesting and more advanced environment uh, in the current scenario. As of now, majority of the people are using this cloud environment. So up to now, what we understood is either physically we should have all the resources in our single system, or the resources may be available at server, or with the help of virtual machines, we'll try to process our requests in different environments. These are the things which we have discussed so far, right? Now, for all these things, the storage is one of the important factor. First point, day to day, our data gets increased. Just a minute, I'll show you some of the statistics regarding internet so that you can understand. Live. Now, are you able to view my screen? Say yes or no. So all of you observe, this is the internet users in the world as of now. At this moment, these are the number of users, those who are using internet. In this, including you and me also be there. And so you can see emails sent today and total number of websites, blog posts, Twitter, how many number of people are generating their tweets, Google search. This is the live statistics. Continuously, it is going to be changing. There you can observe how many people are using in the worldwide. YouTube users, Instagram, Facebook, right? So this is the website which shows you the live statistics regarding the internet usage, what people are doing in the internet itself. Okay, right? So I got a message because I have security Kaspersky that it shows someone is trying to attack your network. That means here this particular website is trying to access my data. So that's why it shows that kind of message. Of course, I have secured version. It was detected and rejected it. Okay, fine. Why I'm showing this particular thing is just a minute. This is the people, those who are using internet today. Okay, so because of the two things, one is storage constraint, and the applications which we are running may require different kinds of resources which are not affordable to you. For example, if I want to use a particular software which I am unable to purchase, because which is the most costliest one. For example, it is 1 lakh. Let us assume that it is 1 lakh. I'm not able to purchase it, but I want to execute my application in that particular software. What I have to do? So I need to purchase. I need to get it for a rent, just like rent. What way the rented houses, what way the rented things are available. In a similar way, you can. Okay, so here also the cloud is just like similar to that, not exactly the same, which is similar to that. Okay, uh, we will see elaborately in the next class what exactly the cloud computing, how it works and all, because which is essential for you to enlighten, to think in a different direction. Okay, right. Now you can ask if you have any queries, either by unmuting or you can drop the message in the chat box.